The Polish P-83 pistol. This is another Cold War surplus gun. This was the standard sidearm issued the Polish Army. It was developed in the 80s. This particular gun, I believe, was made in 1988. 1983 was the year they adopted it. Poland and most of the communist bloc countries after post-World War II, while the Russians were manufacturing their Makarov pistol and AK-47s, these countries that were kind of more or less forcibly placed in the communist bloc during the 50s manufactured Nagant rifles and Tovarek pistols, which Poland did. Both the M44 carbine and the Tovarek semi-automatic pistol were standard issued for the Army back then. In 1964, the Poles decided to adopt a small automatic pistol, the P-64, and this was chambered in the then Russian standard caliber of the 9x18 millimeter Makarov pistol round. How the Makarov pistol round came about is most of these communist bloc guns, the Hungarians, the Polish, and the Russian Makarov, they're basically a copy of the Walter PP design, which is a blowback operated pistol. What I mean by that is the slide freely moves on the frame and the barrel is fixed to the frame and there's a spring around the barrel. That's it. Nothing locks, cams, or holds back the recoil of the cartridge going off, henceforth called blowback automatics. Like we'll use the Colt 1911-45, which everyone's familiar with. If you look at the top of the barrel, those little ribs lock into the slide, and then there's a little hinge on the bottom. So when the gun fires, it's locked, and the pressure pushes back, and a little hinge pivots down, unlocks the gun, and then the spring underneath the barrel is what operates the gun. But the cartridge is so powerful it needs to be locked. 9 millimeters, all of that need to be locked. When you get down into the 32 automatics, 380 automatic, you can use a blowback pistol. It doesn't need to be locked. The advantage of that is it's simpler to manufacture, it's not as a complex design, and they're more cost efficient. That's why a lot of police departments, even until the 80s, were issued 32 automatics, 380s. The guns are a little bit less expensive to manufacture and easier to use. As for the 9x18 Makarov cartridge, the Russians, keeping that in mind, designed that cartridge to be at the maximum parameters in a handgun that is just blowback operated with a spring. So the idea was to take the envelope, push the envelope as far as it goes, and that's where that cartridge came around. Now, for years, people would say it was weaker than a 380 automatic, which until these guns flooded the U.S. market and U.S. ammunition manufacturers started making the cartridge, it came to the realization the bullet diameter is slightly larger than a 9mm Luger or a 380 automatic, and it falls power-wise in between the two. It's not quite as powerful as a 9mm Luger, but it's still got more punch than a 380 automatic does. And now that these guns have flooded the market and more ammunition is available, you can get hollow points and everything else. This particular pistol was manufactured, and what's unique about it is it's made from the frame and the slide are made from stamped steel. Now it's still machined and everything. You can see the machining marks, and it's fairly heavy. It's heavy steel that they took flat sheet metal and pressed it and formed the slide and frame, and it's all welded together, very nicely done, which was a cost-cutting technique, which they ended up being able to design and manufacture a pistol that was functional, worked well, and saved them a lot of money. a lot of machining time and everything else. So I got an interesting story to go with this gun. I picked it up this morning. So that's kind of the history of it. We'll take a closer look at it, take it apart. I kind of wanted one for my collection. I already have a Bulgarian manufactured Makarov pistol. And I found that even though they're not small, real compact, the cartridge in a medium size, say, this is not as large as like a 45 automatic or a Beretta, they're not a bad gun. Okay, a lot of people don't think they're a real good military service firearm, but for just knocking around, you know, fits in the hand good. It's not super tiny small like a pocket gun, and you know, it's got a cartridge that isn't too terrible, so it's a pretty good all-around knock-around gun. Now, I kind of had a bad week at work, so I was in a mood, and of course I got flyers from JG Sales here, and I was reading an article in the military surplus gun magazine about this pistol. And how they come in is, I guess sporadically they're rearming and everyone's going with a 9mm pistol. So these guns from the police departments or military, wherever they come from, do come in to the country from time to time in different batches. And they'll range anywhere from like brand new to some of them are pretty beat up. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So for a long time, Gander Mountain had a couple of these guns in the case. But like with JG Sales, okay, they got it in here advertised for 220 bucks. Okay, so you figure you get the gun 220. Hand select, you want them to look at them and take the one that isn't as scuffed up or worn. It's another 20, so that knocks it up to 240. And all you get is the pistol, and I think they give you a holster and one magazine. Here's the catch, one magazine. So 220 for the pistol, we hand select, you get, so that's 240. So you got a pistol, one mag, and a holster. Shipping is going to be $20 or more dollars, somewhere in the ballpark there. So it's $260. Then $25 for my FFL when I order it and everything. Be shipped to him, and then he does the paperwork. So that's $295 right there. Gander Mountain had these guns for $340 something in the rand, and they look pretty good. They were in good shape. And I was hemming and hawing, and I'm saying, well, if I pay like an extra $50, $60, I can just go here in town, get the guns, see what it looks like, make sure it's good, and pick it up and go with it. You know, for 60 bucks more. You know, eliminate the hassle. Well, like I said, I went into Gander Mountain, and you go into any Gander Mountain, any of these places after the craze and panic, when you go to the gun counters, which are huge, you got to take a number, wait in line. So about a month or so ago, I went in, I was really itching to buy this gun, and I went in there, and I'm standing there waiting. I waited 15, 20 minutes, and then there, you know, one of the clerks is talking to a guy about his knee surgery or something. So I don't know, I got fed up and left, didn't even look. So, like I said, I got this flyer the other day, and I got this magazine. I was reading an article about it, and then the guy goes in there, well, you better grab a whole one before they dry out, because they don't come in real massive quantities, and they're kind of spotty in finding them. So they run, say it's a $250 gun, is what you're looking at. Now, it used to be they came with 2 clips and a holster. So you're looking at $2 something for a holster. If you wanted to add, let's go back there again and see where it says it'll sell you 1 magazine, limit 1 per purchase of pistol for another $20. So 20, 40. Okay, so it's 220, 20 for the hand select, 240. Get a magazine, 260. Shipping, 80. Now you're up to $300 some, okay, to get that. So I had to run errands today. I go to Gander Mountain, and someone was telling me, someone was bothering me. After I got the flyer, and someone said, go down there and buy one of them guns. Just go today. So I got up early, ran some errands, went to the bank, and where my bank is, Gander Mountain's close by. So I go in the shop, and of course I get there early, there's no customers. I get to the gun counter, and one of the guys is standing there, okay sir, can I help you? I said, yeah. I'd like to look at one of them P-83 pistols. So he goes, all right. He gets it out and he's showing me. He had 5 of them in there. So I went through, looked them all over, and I picked out, there were 2 of them that were real nice, and I picked one out. I said, okay, I'll take this gun. He goes, okay. I said, does the gun come with anything? He goes, nope, gun, magazine, that's it. They don't come with nothing. I said, all right. I figure I'm getting hosed here anyway, so I'll take it. So he goes, we start filling out the paperwork, and while I'm filling out the forms, the one guy was called away, and then another employee came, and he says, well, I'll handle this for you, sir. So he starts going over the paperwork, and then a third employee walks by and goes, somebody's finally buying one of them pistols? He goes, I put a box for it out up under the counter. I got a box. He goes, would you like the box, sir? It's just a plain, simple cardboard box. And I said, yeah, well, it's better than just getting it put in a brown paper bag. So it took them a while to find this box. So finally they find a box. They go, here it is, cardboard box, you can have it. We'll put the pistol in there. I said, all right. And then, because I asked the one guy, does it come with a holster or anything? And he goes, nope, just the gun and one magazine. So they get the box out, hand it to me, and I open up the box. And inside the box is a ratty holster and another magazine. So I said, yeah, man, since I'm paying the shot, I'll take the box. You know, they were oblivious to the fact it was in there. They just said, here's the box, there's something in there, you can have that too. So now the guy goes, and he's looking at the pistol, he goes, well, I can't give you the box unless I give you the handgun that's serial numbers on the label. And I look at it, he looks at the gun and goes, that ain't the gun, the one I picked, it's not there. And they did have one in there that was pretty beat up, crappy looking. I said, oh shit. I want the holster, I want the clip. Okay, I gotta take that gun. So he goes through, and sure enough, fortunately for me, the box went to my second choice. So it was still a decent gun. I can't really remember why. I think it's because this has a little bit of wear on the front here of the slide, and the other one didn't. That's why I picked it. They're about the same. So I scored. Got the box, holster, extra magazine. Said, man, this is great. Okay, I'm going to make out. So the guy goes, all right, $340 some. He goes to ring up the gun. Okay, we get all the stuff done. He goes to ring the gun up. He rings up the gun. The gun rings up at $229. He's looking at the cash register. He's looking at the tag on the pistol, $340 or something. He's looking at the cash register. He's looking again. So he goes, I don't know what's happening. He goes, I'm not allowed to mark up items. So he goes, you're getting the gun for $230. Because that's what, when I scanned the barcode on the tag, that's what it said. So I said, this is a great day. Something told me to go down there and buy that gun, and I don't know how it worked out, but I ended up getting a gun at a decent price and getting all the accessories with it too. So it was a good day in the world of collecting surplus firearms. So we got the gun. Now let's take a closer look at it. Like I said, they're basically a copy of the Walther PP, which is the larger version of the PPK, police pistol. The basic guns, they're made in most of the communist bloc countries. Now, like I said, this one's unique because it's made up of stampings and weldments. Doesn't look it, but when you look closely, we'll take it apart. And another neat thing is, I don't know what the magazine is, 7-8 rounds. Basically you just cock it normal. And for your controls, you have here, which this is a double single action pistol. Now this lever here, what you would do is load the gun, and then you would push this lever up. I'll try to do this. And that decocks the pistol, drops it to like a half-cock position. Also, it disengages the trigger. So now the gun is on safe. Okay, and you can have a loaded round in the chamber, holster this gun. Now, when you push the lever down, expose the red dot. Let's see, we'll do that again, because I'll show you something. Okay, we're cocked, trigger's back. Push the lever up, drops the gun, it's on safe. Now when you push the lever down, watch the trigger. Trigger snaps forward. Now the gun is in double action mode and the safety is off. So you would pull the trigger, the gun would fire. It operates like a standard semi-automatic pistol after the double action trigger pull, and now you have the standard single action gun. So it's pretty neat. It's also on the P-83, it's designed like that. So, and then also here is your slide stop, slide release. Do it. It's hard for me to show you the controls and keep it to the camera. Okay. Your slide stop. That will engage with an empty magazine and hold the gun open. Then what you would do is place a magazine in, and that's easy to reach with your thumb, and close it, and away you go. So other than that, it's just a basic, simple gun. Simple sights. I know a lot of people don't like them. They're not high visibility sights or whatever, but they're, you know, you can paint. What I usually do is take nail polish or some kind of hard acrylic paint and paint the blade to pick it up easier in the little bitty side, the notch in the back. Now another thing is, what's neat about this gun, which I noticed, is it still has the European magazine release here on the bottom, which is this latch. Now some of them are up inside the grip, and they're hard to get a hold of. I've noticed on this one, it's a little bit different than a lot of the others. I'll zoom in, take a look at it. You see where it kind of sticks up a little? Well, if you go and press this closed, the magazine will come out of there pretty freely, which a lot of them, it's a pain to do a mag change. So basically all you have to do is reach up and just push upwards, and the magazine drops out. And I found it even with it locked back, and you just load your other mag, which this is easier to get the magazines out of than a lot of the designs, because they kind of cover that little tab in the bottom. You know, it would be up inside the grip. You gotta like reach in with your finger and pull backwards. This one here is a little bit different. And then there's a lanyard loop there. Standard military pistol. Because they still keep them. Military likes some lanyard loops. And then it came with a flap holster and an extra mag. Standard European design. Holster's well worn, pretty ratty. But, you know, the bottom end here is all, it's been sewn up and the little cap needs to be repaired. But it does have the manufacturer's name and that on the inside of the label. And some numbers and other things. So this was an actual issue gun. Has some things in there. So it's pretty neat to throw in there, you know. part of the collectible deal. So that's about it for operation wise. So now I'll do a close up. We'll take it apart and take a look at it here in a minute. Alright, field strip it. Clear the weapon and get the magazine out. Make sure the safety's off, because what you want to do is go back and get the hammer back out of the way. And if you look up here on the trigger guard on both sides, there's these little serrated edges on this block. You reach up in the front there, grab them, and you pull that block down like that. Okay? Just reach up, pull it down. Now, just like any of the Walters and that, you just pull backwards as far as you go, lift up, and slide the slide. And like I said, you have one spring with a barrel mounted to the frame, like that, and your slide assembly, where you can go and clean out everything. Now, like I said about the weldments, if you look at this, it looks just like a standard machine slide. You know, there's machine marks, it's pretty thick. But when you look on the ends, on both sides of the slide, a little bit closer, if you can see, let me get a focus in here. If you look, you can see where the sheet metal was wrapped around. There's a seam, and it was welded. There's like a plug or block that this piece of sheet metal is wrapped around. You can see the seam where it's folded around there. Okay, and it's a block that was placed in there and welded on. Same in the back. If you look closely, hopefully you can see it. You can see where the frame is, or the slide is wrapped around and welded onto another block. And there you can see the little lines, circular lines on that. So that's how they kind of mass produce this gun and save down the cost. Now if you go look at the frame, take a screwdriver, and all you have in the grip, it's on one side, it's on the left hand side, is one screw. You just take that screw out. And now be careful, because the parts do kind of slide around. The plastic grips hold them in place. You got one half with a screw, and the other half comes off of this side that's got the nut in it. Now, take a look at this frame. Here. Looks like your standard frame. Like I said, you can see where it's machined. And there's all your controls. Like I said, you got to watch out for this thing will drop. But if you look up here in the back under the hammer, you could see where the halves of the frame come together. There, where it's the sheet metal that's been wrapped around. And like I said, it is machined. They machined the rails on there and everything, and all your standard parts. And I think, yeah, if you look, I don't know if you can see it at the spring off. If you look up inside under the barrel, you can see the weld seam where the two halves of the frame were welded together. You know, and it's probably been welded in here, and probably, well, yeah, it's just bent around, and then you can see in the back up under the hammer where the two seams are. So that's basically stamped sheet metal, and that's what forms your frame. Pretty simple, basic pistol. That's why they like this design. It's not very complicated and easy to manufacture, especially doing this. Now, to put it back together again, we'll put our spring on there. We'll line up our grip on this side. Make sure our slide locks up into place. Put our other grip in there. And drop down our screw. Okay, just tighten down nice. Now we're all back to where we were. And then basically, you should take your slide. I'm shaking it away. I'm going to do this the other way. Look at my hands. And then you just get it back, lifting up or back, so you get it all the way back. You know, all the way back, down, and then back on your rails again. And then you just push up the block, lock it in place, and there you go. That's basically it for field stripping. So that's my new addition to my Cold War or military handgun collection. Had an interesting story to go with that, where I ended up making out pretty good and got it for the price I wanted, even though it wasn't the way it was going to be. And I hope you enjoy it. It's an interesting Friday, another fun-filled day in the world of collecting surplus firearms.